Today I'd like to ponder about the word wonder. I've been calling this series Wonder Club, and since we're now on episode 10, I feel it's only fair to revise what does it even mean. So what is a wonder really? A wonder takes you out of the mundane. It interrupts the routine. It brings you through curiosity. It brings you through amazement, through awe. It brings you into presence. But now I'm against being, how do I say, when people only value that part of life. I feel that we're going through the motions towards some goal, perhaps that in the future we're going through the motions of the everyday. I think we're going through the motions. Yes, we're going to get our goal, but we're going through the motions in order to be interrupted. You're supposed to forget yourself to be brought back to the real life, which for me, real life is when you go to work really early in the morning. You have to commute really early. You're going to work to get your money, but you're going to work to see the sunrise. For me, those moments that when you, of course, you seek them out more or less, and I encourage you to seek them out more than less, but I feel that real life hides in those moments. It hides in the way that the grass looks different today. It hides in the way that it said it was going to be a clear sky, but it's a little bit cloudy, so I cannot see the sun exactly the way I was expecting. It's in the way that the sea looks today. It's reflecting the sky in a more gray than blue way. I just wanted to bring us back a little bit to the moment that started the whole program and the whole thing of me wanting to share these things. And speaking of wonders, I'm looking to my left, and we had another eruption, I believe 2 days ago. And it's still going on. It's a bit smaller one than the other ones that happened, but it's still going. Let's get into the episode, shall we? So, wonder number 1. So I mentioned substack in my previous episode, and that continues to be a wondrous practice in my day-to-day. Okay, listen, as a person who is constantly between nature and presence and a digital life. I've grew up heavily in the digital realm. I've been on every platform possible, and I've always found this as an integral part of me. And these digital landscapes, they change, and as you get older, you change with them a little bit less. And what's happening to Instagram, for example, I still have lots of love in my heart for that platform, but I feel it's losing. Of course, everyone's saying that now, that it's losing its initial joyous moment, joyous characteristic, because people loved just going on there and sharing their moments. Now everybody wants to sell you something, and you have to keep a certain standard that seeps through from brands, through people. So Substack, I feel it still feels very real and free, and I feel people are craving that kind of real connection that is there. So what I wanted to make a point around is that those digital landscapes shape, of course, our interactions in the world and kind of standardize the way that we communicate ourselves visually online. And for a long time in my digital view, I feel that prompt to, you see something, you take a certain kind of picture, you post it on your story, or you take some certain kind of picture, you post it on an Instagram carousel. And I feel that prompt becomes like an actual, action in your day-to-day. And what Substack did for me is it prompted in a different way. It prompted in this old internet way. And I've been I'm talking about old internet ways to everyone I can, because I really am nostalgic about how internet used to be, and I feel like Substack is honing this. Is that the word? Is that the right word? It's just holding that. I don't want to sound too new agey, but it's holding a space for that. And now I feel that I find myself, instead of prompting to post on a story, I'm prompting in my head. I get a little prompt to be like, oh, I could write about this, and this could be inserted in my article, or I could make a note about this. And I feel I really like that change, and the digital landscape difference. And I feel that instead of it being standardized, of course there's trends and certain niches that you can go down, but instead of being so standardized, it values being specific, which I really love, because I really love getting to know all these people and how exactly specific they are, and not how uniform or niche only one way they are, like they're not building brands per se, they're just sharing specific aspects of what they enjoy or notice or observe or challenge. So yeah, I just simply had to include that as a wonder, as in wonder number one. All right, so speaking of Substack and writing, I've been feeling this immense need against the digital to, no matter how much I love the digital world, to take real action in the world. And to some of you that might sound weird, because what do you mean? Like all you do is take real action in the world. You're alive, you talk to people. That's not what I mean. I mean, I'm someone who spends time primarily in their head. For me, sometimes the joy that someone who would have from accomplishing an action, it just happens all in my brain, and I never end up doing the actual thing. And I feel like that strips me from the experience that could lead me somewhere that I'm not able to see yet, because I'm not entering that experience. So I've been feeling this immense need to take real action in the world, and without that preliminary overthinking or thinking it through without action. So I've been feeling that taking action is almost wild to me. It's almost magical and alchemizing how it feels, and also uncomfortable to bring your ideas back out without the outside prompts, which I'm letting Substacks to be my outside prompt, but still it's not, I don't know, I might just be going through something here. But I wanted to share just the simplicity of taking action and feeling that alchemizing power of something from your brain transpiring into reality, and letting yourself go with that experience and think later. I feel like writing is such a primary action-taking activity that I've been coming back to recently, and yeah, I don't trust it yet. It feels weird, but maybe I believe there's somebody who will relate to this, and yeah, and with time that trust will be built. And another thing about action that really is very attractive to me is that little quote that I found here, that action creates clarity and confidence. And yes, 100%, you can read all the books, but if you don't take the action, you will not have the confidence, the true confidence and clarity that you've experienced something over time repeatedly, and you can trust it. And if you can trust something, then you have the confidence to perform it. I feel the true confidence. Speaking of action, number 3. Yeah, that was number 2. I never introduced it properly. That was the number 2. And speaking of action, I have been taking more action towards preserving the skills that my mom has. My mom is a very skilled person, and when I was a child, I was kind of naturally taking over some of those skills. But over time, of course, as life goes, I went away from them. And now I've been feeling like tad panicky that, oh wait, I'm an only child. There's no one else to take over. So I've been really taking time to record tutorials of her showing me how to do things, and things like sewing, knitting, tarot cards. I've always was doing readings with her, but so I was really adamant when I visited last that I wanted to do a project like we used to. We used to make clothes, and I definitely took that for granted, that I could just think up a dress and then lovingly harass my mom to make it, and not without fight, but we would reach a point where the dress would be made and it would be a beautiful piece that no one else had, and that I was also bullied for because no one else had it. So they obviously hated it and didn't understand it. But that's a whole another thing. Now what I wanted to make is I really wanted to make a quilted pouch for my Kindle. I ended up picking materials, and the materials were, some of it was like an old jacket, some of this was from my mom's old material collection, fabric collection, sorry. And then I was really inspired by these Japanese quilted items like coasters or cleaning cloths and pouches. But I wanted to take advantage of my mom's sewing machine when I was there as well. So I piled up this little collection of fabrics and buttons. And also, a really important thing for me about this pouch is that it feels to me like a generational piece, because the buttons are from my grandma's old collection, the fabrics are from my mom's and mine. And then I was the one designing it, and my mom ended up the one creating on top of it and making the actual product. So, product, that sounds so serious. But yeah, and I really thoroughly enjoyed the process, and I enjoyed watching her create and improvise on top of my idea as well. And we ended up doing it at midnight, like the night before I had to leave the next day at 7 a.m. But that, that left me sitting on a train the next day feeling really, really, really special that I have this item that we've crafted together. And I feel when you can create something that you can use every day and you can create it with your loved ones, it makes me feel almost refreshed in reality. Like, it makes me feel alive in a very special way. And speaking of refreshed in reality, there's an artist called Tom Rosenthal, and that brings us to Wonder Number 4. So I've been following his music for a very long time, and there isn't many people that I followed the entire discography of, but I really connect to his lyrics and music and this lightheartedness and realness and down-to-earthness that he presents. And recently I've come across his podcast, which is called Strangers on a Bench, and he's just approaching people, I think in Hampstead Heath in London, and asks them certain questions about life, and every episode starts with the same question, I believe, and then it just continues from the conversation. And for the first time in a long time, I had actual audible reactions to listening to something on my own. I very rarely do that. Like, even if I find something funny on the TV screen, I don't actually emote out loud if I'm alone, which is interesting. But with that one, I was actually reacting in that way. And my favorite episode so far is with this elderly gentleman called "I Threw My Phone in the Pond." It's so lovely. And when he answers a question about a perfect day, part of his answer goes, have my coffee with a sandwich, chat with people around, have a nap, and get back home on a train which is not cancelled. And I mean, if that's not poetic perfection. So, yeah, I wanted to highlight that person in that podcast, because there is this gentleness of another level about his creations, and I feel that it has brought me, in certain moments of my life, it has brought me back to what I like and feel good about in life. It has brought me to that place multiple times. And I feel like, yet again, his creations did that. So I felt it's worth sharing and checking out Tom Rosenthal's artwork and music and the podcast. And here we are at wonder number 5, which is something that I've been wanting to include since, I think, the first episode, but I never managed to weave it in. But since we're now back in winter, my focus as a driver is on the road. And road conditions in Iceland, no matter the season, it's important to keep an eye on road closures and conditions, and be prepared for what you might find on your way. And it's a very present topic, and something that, as season progresses, becomes an active notion of checking it, sometimes daily if we have the storm season, or there's lots of snowstorms or black ice on the road. And the first time I did that, I found this wonderful array of webcams that produced, for lack of a better word, wicked photographs of the road and of the conditions that become really abstract. And it reminded me of a project that I was assigned during my first studies in Finland. So back when I first found these webcam photos and remembered the photography projects in Finland, I made a little note that I shared on Instagram, which I will read you a part of it. The impact of that class is with me, whether I'm working in the photographic field professionally or privately. Michael gave us the most inspiring assignments, and you don't meet very many teachers like that. He was one of those who, as a complete byproduct of their being, made you feel incredibly aware your shared time was golden, and perhaps you were there by mistake and you can't truly measure up. I remember being sad and crushed under the weight of all the responsibility of ECTS credits I have taken upon myself, and having half-assed the great assignments he gave us. One of which was to photograph through a live webcam of choice, insert a motivational guide on the importance of framing and exploring the limitation of all else otherwise available. The other students have chosen some really cool locations, which Michael was impressed about and discussed them at length. When I saw a presentation about a webcam in a laundromat in Japan, I felt instantly ashamed for what I've prepared. Back then, I've chosen some glacier location in Iceland, but today, these here would have been a better choice. The images arose in the southwest Iceland during the first storm of the season. After a co-worker's tip to check live cam streams in order to estimate driving conditions, I fell in awe of the simplicity and cozy mystery of the images and the ability to safely transport oneself onto the sublime landscape inaccessible by any other means. I don't know if Michael will ever stumble upon my video, but if he does, or if I find him again, I hope he is reminded by the impact of a good photography class and a good teacher, because it's been 10 years, if not more, and I still want to impress Michael. So, that little collection of photos and my photography class sentiment concludes our episode today as window number 5. And thank you for sticking with me. If you'd like to have a peek into my world a little bit more, I did start that substack that I mentioned, so I will link that in the description. And yeah, we're at episode 10, so I think 1 or 2 are left. I still haven't decided if I'll make it to a full 12 episodes, because I did start it in February last year, not January. But let me know if you'll be interested in like a final episode, perhaps concluding a collection of my favorites of the favorites, wonders of the wonders, picking one wonder of each episode. But yeah, thank you for those who have been watching and commenting and following my journey on here. And yeah, see you around. Thank you.